This programme is the Petro-Canada Lubricants Porsche Club Championship with Pirelli. Welcome along to the first event of the 2020 Petro-Canada Lubricants Porsche Club Championship with Pirelli here at Snetterton. The championship opener has attracted a great looking entry, including the reigning champion in each class, outright champion Ross Morris, and of course his dad Peter Morris. The sun is shining and Barry is heading down into the paddock to chat to the reigning champion Ross Morris.
Ross, finally the 2020 season is underway. Now, reigning champion at the moment. Beautiful to see that number one livery there on the PMC machine. Now, everyone's going to be after you, of course, this year. Targets on your back, so you've got quite a bit to live up to.
I'm definitely feeling the pressure. I mean, I kind of feel like because I'm reigning champion, I have to come out. You know, I didn't know if this season would end up happening this year, but I'm glad it has. I've missed it, and the car feels good. It's noticeably quicker than the car last year, but still not qualified on pole, which is a bit annoying.
Now, your story of the rise to the sort of top of the podium last year was a superb one for many reasons, not just for the PMC and your good self, but also the fact that you've proved that Class 2 drivers can actually go and get that top slot.
That's it, as long as there's enough numbers, you know, to get the points with cars in class. Anything's possible. You've got to be consistent, and I've had a lot of luck. You need luck as well, and it's all gone my way, luckily.
James, great to see you out there in what is your second season with the championship. Now, you've been out for qualifying, blistering start there, seems good times being set, and then suddenly a disaster. What's happened?
Yeah, sadly we sort of did some good times, and just when the red flag came out in the qualifying session, the temperature went up on the engine and a pulley's broken, which stopped the water pump from working. So it's literally a belt and a pulley. This is our home race, so the guy's garage is about an hour away. He's gone back to get a pulley where he's got one. Hopefully he's going to be back in time for race one. We should be back and ready, no problem for race two, but it's going to be tight. Fingers crossed we haven't done any damage to the engine when it overheated. But yeah, so it started well. So it's sort of bittersweet really. So it's my best qualifying position. And so let's hope we get out for race one anyway. So we'll see how we go.
Charles Clark, new racer, one of a few that we have. Now, first of all, you've been out for qualifying. How did that go?
Yeah, it went well. Improved quite a lot from yesterday's test session. The car felt good. It's just got to get ready for the race now. It's just getting used to it. I've only been in the car for 3 times. This is my 3rd time, and I've never been to Snetterton, so it's nice to be here. It's a good track, and I'm excited to get going, really.
Apart from maybe the odd bit of sim racing, you haven't actually raced before in your life.
No, never. So it's going to be interesting in the race, see what my racecraft's like, but I'm excited for it anyway.
Now, we saw you a couple of rounds out last year, I think, just sort of testing the water. So how did that go?
It went very well. I enjoyed it a lot. Encouraged me to come back. And now we're looking forward to a season. Bit of a late start for the obvious reasons, but really looking forward to it.
Beautiful livery, but obviously sponsorship is key in this sort of environment. So just tell us who put you here.
A guy called Mick Goff, who owns G&H Tech, sponsors us fully. He's helped us out a lot. He pays for the tyres, the entries, everything. He really has helped us out an awful lot. And without him, I probably wouldn't be able to do this particular championship. So I owe him an awful lot.
2019 season, we went down to the wire on the final round. Back again for a very condensed season and on pole, so a good way to start.
Yeah, a really good way to start, and couldn't have wished for more really. This is a kind of favourite circuit of mine. I'm not local, but I've done more laps around here than most other circuits. So Thomson Reuters are the new title sponsor, which is fantastic. It's absolutely great to have them on board, and they've done loads around the kind of social media side as well. So that's great. We've got Next Connect returning for another season, which is mega, as well as VRI, and then another new sponsor, SP1 IT Solutions. So yeah, so it's fantastic. Some of those guys are here. Obviously, it's difficult here at Snetterton with the restrictions to the public, but it's good to see some public here, and I think we hope that that's going to open up for the remainder of the season.
The cars on the grid for the first race of the 2020 season. What a great sight it is. A great feeling to be back motor racing with the championship. Simon Clark starting on pole position from James Cayley. Peter Morris and Mark McAleer, two former champions, occupying the second row of the grid. Class 2 headed by James Coleman from defending champion Ross Morris, Andy Muggeridge and Charles Clark next up. And it's Paul Simpson who takes pole position for Class 3 from Stephen Shaw, Barry Strong and Mike Thompson. Lights out here at Snetterton. The 2020 season is underway. A little bit of argy-bargy at the back. I think that might have been Ross Morris involved off the front of the Class 2s as they head down into Riches for the first time. Mark McAleer goes wide in the black and blue 14. It's side by side at the front. James Cayley, though, makes a very good start from the outside run. Gets a wheel on the dirt. Could lose a bit of momentum there. That could open things up for Simon Clark. But no, it is James Cayley, the leader. Simon Clark second, side by side for third. Between the two former champions still, started on the second row of the grid as we look back to the Class 3. They're the Resto racing cars that we saw last year, having a number of standalone races, and we've got 4 of the Class 3s out this weekend. In car with James Coleman in Class 2. He's much further back than he would like to be, James Coleman, multi-winner last year, and about to nip past Mike Thompson in one of the Class 3 cars. So I'm not quite sure what happened to James, but he's got a lot of work to do as the race leaders head down to Agostini for the first time. This is the view from the second place car, Simon Clark. James Cayley got off the line extremely well and made the outside line into Rich's work. On the exit, you remember he touched a little bit of grass. I thought he was going to lose momentum as Mark McAleer looks for second position. Mark McAleer having a very good look there, runs wide on the exit of Williams as they come onto the Bentley straight. Now that allows a little bit of space for Pete Morris to have a look. Podium Pete looking for a podium position here, but he's on the outside line and you'd favour the inside, which is what Mark McAleer does. Mark gets back across to defend that third position. Up into fifth has come the yellow machine of Glenn Broster. Good to see Glenn up and running well as they just go through Bombhole and head down to Coram. That Kyle Henney in yellow and black, chasing Andrew Muggeridge. Andrew with 2 class wins under his belt thus far in the championship. James Coleman, very successful driver in the class last year, 6 class wins, and will be working hard to try and relieve Ross Morris of the class championship title as well as the overall championship as well, of course, this year, which is running over 5 rounds. I'll go through the dates a little bit later on as the racing unfolds, but this is super stuff. We're social distancing in the paddock, but there's no distancing going on track because we've got 4 cars in with a shout and battling for the lead at the moment as they come out of the hairpin down towards Palmer, the left-hander, and it's James Cayley still out front. Simon Clark in second place. Quick look back there, Mike Thompson up ahead of Barry Strong in the 35. You can see Barry with the new driver insignia on the back of the car, racing well as the leaders come down into Agostini once again. Cayley, Clark, McAleer Senior. We've got 3 father and son teams now racing in the Petro-Canada Lubricants Porsche Club Championship with Pirelli. It is very much a family paddock, as evidenced by that, and also the drivers coming back year on year to race. And if you look at the longest serving driver, the longest continuing serving driver is Mark McAleer, who joined in 2006. But Pete Morris first raced in 2003, and we've mentioned that many times. I make no apology for mentioning that several times over the course of our series over the years, because it does illustrate the point that people enjoy their racing, they enjoy the organisation, the hospitality and the superb atmosphere that exists in the paddock. So looking back to the Class 3s, we've got a Class 2 in the mix as well. One of the drivers we heard from at the start of the programme, Andy Baker, just ahead with Paul Simpson ahead of him at the moment. Paul Simpson leading Class 3 with a good class lead at the moment, ahead of that gaggle of 4 cars that you saw. Pete Morris still working hard, trying to chase down on Mark McAleer. It is odd to see a relative lack of, or definite lack of spectators here, but of course safety absolutely paramount for everybody. But MSV, Jonathan Palmer and the team have done a super job to keep everybody safe this weekend and get everybody back on track for our opening round which is great news. Great news for James Cayley, who again crosses the line, probably happy that Simon Clark in second position is enjoying a little bit of pressure from Mark McAleer. We're now watching they're the leaders of Class 2 going across the line. And at the moment, Class 2 leader is James Coleman. So James has had a good run. Andrew Muggeridge now down to second. Matt Carl-Henny in yellow and black is third. So Matt Carl-Henny busy looking to try and close down on second position. One of the fancy runners for this year, Matt, was quick last year. Ross Morris winning the overall championship. Won Class 2 from Kevin Molyneux. James Coleman third. Toby Barlow in fourth place and Steve Freeman fifth. And the Class 1s, Pete Morris from championship runner-up Chris Dyer. Chris is racing, of course, this weekend. Jake McAleer was third last year. Simon Clark fourth. And Andy Toon in fifth place as we pick up with Charles Clark, the newcomer, up ahead of Bill Cayley, another newcomer. Charles having a little bit of wobble there. The two newcomers having a good dice. There isn't a newcomers class in this championship, but of course we will keep an eye on who is doing well. And doing well now at the moment is Simon Clark, putting the pressure on James Cayley, with Mark McAleer still in the mix as well. So McAleer trying to hunt them down. Pete Morris still there in fourth, a little bit further back than he was earlier on in the race, but still keeping a decent distance is Pete Morris. So we'll see whether Pete can close in again on Mark McAleer as we go back to Andrew Muggeridge. P2 in Class 2, up ahead of Matt Kyle-Henny. And James Coleman starting to break away now and setting fastest laps on his way and trying to put a bit of air between himself and this battle for second position, which is quite a good battle to watch, to be absolutely fair, as James Cayley comes across the line again. And you can see that Mark McAleer still putting the 23 car under big pressure in this opening race. This is a fascinating battle for the opening race of the season, with James Cayley, who had those problems, remember, coming into this race. Really his last minute repairs and we got him out, and he's made a superstar. He's really rewarding the team here with a great drive off the front of the grid. 77 car Charles Clark still racing hard in his debut and running in fifth place at the moment in Class 2. So a good healthy start for him as we pick up with Andrew Muggeridge from the number one, of course, denoting reigning champion Ross Morris. This is a fight for third place. Can't really call it a fight at the moment. There's a little bit of a gap between them. Matt Kyle-Henny is ahead of them. And ahead of Matt is James Coleman, who's come through from the back of the grid. A remarkable drive from James Coleman, who, like Pete Morris in Class 1, has the fastest lap. Pete Morris having set fastest lap on lap 3, a 2-minute 6.247. There is Matt Kyle-Henny with Andrew Muggeridge busy chasing him, and Ross Morris in the number one car. Charles Clark still chasing and working hard. But meanwhile, James Cayley still under pressure from Simon Clark, and Clark again under pressure from Mark McAleer. And at the moment, it's the Cayman, he's the meat in the 997 sandwich. So James Cayley, the race leader. Where is Pete Morris? Let's see if he's in the vicinity. Well, we flick away very briefly to check up on Andy Baker, former BRSCC Porsche Boxster racer. That championship now having come to a conclusion. Andy having joined us before the championship finished. Another quick look at Andy Muggeridge. Mike Thompson busy chasing Stephen Shaw there. And the iconic Porsche liveries, of course, from the rest of the racing cars that we've very much enjoyed watching over the last couple of years. Class 3 cars running on a treaded tyre, so you'll expect to possibly see the race leaders put a lap on those. Barry Strong goes through just ahead of these two, who are dicing for the final podium position in Class 3. Paul Simpson leads class at the moment in the number 88 car. So this is the battle for third place. Mike Thompson trying as hard as he can to close in. And of course, the lead quartet still very much at it. And it is 3 997s and the Cayman. Simon Clark busy chasing hard at the moment, and he's in a difficult position, Simon Clark, to be absolutely fair. By the way, fifth, let's give a shout out to Chris Dyer, who's running in fifth place. But Simon Clark in a difficult position because he's got to be mindful of Mark McAleer, the Richmond-based driver and multi-champion, right behind him. Mark also now has to be mindful of Pete Morris, and Pete, you can see, taking a generous line into Montreal hairpin. That might give him some momentum down in the run down in towards the left-hander, and we ride on board with Pete. He's not able actually at the moment to do anything like Mark McAleer. They'll be mindful about tyres as well for the remainder of this race. There is Paul Simpson, the 88 car, the leader of those two cars, the leader of Class 3, being chased by Andy Baker, who's making a good run. As we predicted, the Class 1 cars starting to find a little bit of traffic with the Class 3s. That's fully expected here. And it adds another dimension to the race. James Cayley, I think the traffic has fell well for him, and he's dealt with it well too, and has extended the lead over Simon Clark at the moment. And Clark has really got his hand full with these two drivers right behind him. Great view once again from Pete Morris. Pete has, this is his 165th Porsche Club Championship start. He's had 37 wins, 90 podium finishes for Pete Morris over the years. I know he loves a good stat, does our podium Pete. As Andy Baker continues to try and close down on Paul Simpson. That's the great thing about this racing as well, inter-class racing. We've got a Class 2 chasing a Class 3 as Mark McAleer piles the pressure on. The lights are on, and he is busy chasing Simon Clark at the moment. Pete Morris, though, still with the fastest lap in the race. There is Chris Dyer, who's closing in now. So we've got another Cayman joining in, a second Cayman joining in with the 997s, and the two Strasser cars at the moment running in fourth and fifth. Strasser livery, the red and black. Mike Thompson is the Class 3 car being passed now by the race leaders. James Cayley through and safe. Simon Clark in second position. Mark McAleer still in third. Now, is that the last of the traffic that they're going to have to deal with before the end of the race? I'm wondering whether they're probably going to possibly catch Andy Baker as well, based on the lap times for this 25-minute race. Should equate to around about 12 laps. James Coleman, the leader in Class 2. Coleman ahead of Matt Kyle-Henny. There is the gap. Here's second place in Class 2. Big back gap to third position as well. You can see the slight run uphill here along Centre Straight. There's a little bit of a brow, just sort of round about where you can see the cars coming to now, as Ross Morris tries to relieve Andy Muggeridge at the moment of third position. Ross, the reigning champion, trying to look for a podium position here. And it looks like he's teeing up Andy Muggeridge fairly well. Back to James Coleman, another driver who raced in the BRSCC Porsche Championship, and again made the move out of that championship midway, I think, through last season, if memory serves correctly. Matt Kyle-Henny, his dad Peter, is part of the Porsche Carrera Cup Great Britain, and Matt, a very valuable addition to this championship last year. And I think Simon Clark is starting to get closer to James Cayley here and putting pressure on. A 5-car train for lead position here on the 300 circuit at Snetterton. A super way to open the 2020 season. We look back. This is Del Brett. First proper look at Del during the race. Charles Clark trying to close down on Del Brett. Del, of course, running in Class 1. So Charles Clark running well as the leading quintet now go out of Murray's along Centre Straight once again and onto the final lap. So just under 3 miles to go in the opening race of the season. Now, I was doing the maths and wondering whether the lead cars were going to close in on these other Class 3 runners, and indeed the Class 2 runner, Andy Baker. It's going to be nip and tuck, I think, before the end of the lap. James Cayley again times that well, goes through on the inside line. Back to the race leader, James Coleman, in Class 2. I'm wondering if the gap to Matt Kyle-Henny has come down a little bit. Possibly has, but I don't think James Coleman's got anything to worry about. He's got a very good, healthy lead. The car in between there, the Rothmans livery, is Stephen Shaw. Stephen running in fourth position in Class 3 at the moment, and this is the battle for the podium place in Class 2. Ross Morris looks to the outside line. We saw that work for James Cayley off the line from the start, and Ross Morris is working hard to manage the outside line. The race leaders in amongst the Class 3 traffic. In car with second place man Simon Clark once again. Closes up on the race leader James Cayley. James has done a super job out front. He's soaked up an awful lot of pressure so far, and he's still got the several twists and turns of the 300 circuit to deal with. Simon Clark with Mark McAleer right behind him. This is the battle now, and it looks as if Ross Morris has got the inside line here. Down into Agostini, they're both hard on the brakes. Good driving here from Andrew Muggeridge, gives him room. No paint trading between the two. Good respectful racing. The door is still open for Ross Morris to come through into third place as they go into Hamilton, and Ross Morris takes third. And you saw Andrew Muggeridge just running a little bit wide, giving perhaps a little bit too much room, but he doesn't want to damage the car, either his car or that of Ross Morris. So loses the podium position. Ross Morris up to third place. This though is the battle for the lead, and Simon Clark, who's having a very good go there, but this is the last chance. It's the run off Murray's Corner which they exit now. Mark McAleer challenging for second. I think that James Cayley has perhaps done enough to take the win. James Cayley comes up to the checkered flag and wins round 1 of the 2020 championship. Second position Simon Clark, third Mark McAleer, fourth Pete Morris, fifth place was Chris Dyer from Jake McAleer. Paul Simpson has won Class 3. Barry Strong in second from Mike Thompson in Class 3. There is the 88 car of Paul Simpson. Barry Strong in second, closed up towards the end, and that leaves the Class 2 battle, which is going to be secured and has been secured by James Coleman. Second position in Class 2 to Matt Kyle Henney. A super way to open up the 2020 campaign. Here's the official result. James Cayley taking the win from Simon Clark and Mark McAleer. Pete Morris in fourth and Chris Dyer, Jake McAleer. James Coleman winning Class 2 ahead of Matt Kyle Henney, and Ross Morris getting onto the podium the last lap, just ahead of Andy Muggeridge. Del Brett, Charles Clark, Bill Cayley and Andy Baker finishing ahead of Class 3 winner Paul Simpson, Barry Strong, Mike Thompson and Stephen Shaw.
We got there just in time with putting the car back together, and it all came together in the race.
It did. It was just in time. I'm glad there was sort of a bit of a delay. I think we were about 10 minutes, 15 minutes late. So without that, we wouldn't have got there. So it was literally, we're down, got to the collecting area, and I'd say 20 seconds later we went out. So it's that close. But yeah, the guys did really well to go back, get the part, put it on really quickly. I was in the car all ready to go, and we got there just in time. So yeah, it's great.
Very close battle there. I was watching you 3 or 4 go into that corner 1, and I thought, that ain't going to fit. It was pretty close.
Yeah, it was really close. I was kind of determined to stay ahead, or at least keep the inside line, but at the end of the day there just wasn't enough space. It's such a close championship, and it's difficult to really find anything else that can match it on that basis. Like, we're all, there's some real good experience on the grid, and you sit, and the cars are so close. Even the different configurations of vehicles, the Caymans and 911s, the different generation of 911s, they're just all so close in performance terms. That's why we all do it, because it's good, real good competitive battles go on.
What happened before the race? Because qualifying done, we walked past you, there was mechanics under the car, all sorts going on.
Yeah, I must admit, after qualifying, I didn't expect to be doing the first race. To be honest, I didn't expect to be doing the second race. We had a problem with one of the rear toe links snapped on the car, and that got embedded into the wheel, and it forced the wheel to come off the car. So we ended up basically with 3 wheels on the wagon. Yeah. So yeah, we thought we were out of it, but luckily the lads have really got stuck into it, and obviously got it back together, and not only got it back together fast as well, so even better.
Now, I thought the 2019 season was one where you made your mark, because you come out of the box pretty quick then, but first race of the season, first podium in class there, you must be pleased.
We've had the big breaks, we've had plenty of rest, so we've all been itching to get out. Really pleased with first, especially after the start. I went to dead last, clutch pedal stuck to the ground, and I just sat there spinning, dropped right to the back, so over the moon I managed to fight the way back through.
Okay, we first saw you out in the 2019 season. Pretty good success there, but you didn't race here. So obviously a little bit of a baptism of fire there in this long circuit. good second place.
Yeah, first came here in November for a test day, and then yesterday was the second time. So yeah, really happy with the second place and the pole as well. Looking forward to race 2. Hopefully I'll get first, but we'll see as racing.
It's exciting, certainly the early part of the race was exciting there.
Yeah, it was. I had a good start. I was getting the run on Matt, and I thought I'll try and get up the inside. But then before I knew it, I had a clunk up the side, and Mugridge had an equally good start. And it turned out just the door was closing on both of us, and took it easy for a few laps, and then sort of looked after my tyres and tried to catch everyone back up. And I just looked after my tyres.
So, first race out of the way, and a podium victory in class there.
Yeah, excellent fun. Really enjoyed it. It was a C2 car that I was having a good battle with, so really enjoyed it, yeah.
Isn't your first podium out of the way? That feels good.
It does feel really good, actually, yeah. Considering about 6th is the highest position I got last year, so 3rd's a real winner for me.
Son of the last race winner, so that was pretty good. Bill, first race ever for you. First of all, what was it like? How did you feel when you sat on the grid waiting for those lights?
Yeah, pretty nervous, to be honest. The sort of left leg was a bit shaky on the clutch, but no, very excited. So sort of quali sort of went all right. I think sort of first time on new slicks, and it was, the car can definitely do a lot more when they're new than when they're older. But as it was exciting, definitely exciting. I've obviously not really been involved in racing before, but sort of half a second, which sounds like nothing, around track like here, it's 7 seconds slower a lap or whatever it is. So it's pretty vital to sort of just keep getting that consistent time. The racing line and braking absolutely right, and hopefully the more races I do, the better I get with that.
First time going out actually in the championship on a race circuit with Porsche. First race, podium. Can't be bad at all, that.
I think we were very fortunate, and the car is just a joy to drive, but it takes a few laps to get into it, and I think they took pity on me because I was the oldest one on the grid.
Now, your background's rallying, so totally different discipline. You want to throw things sideways, and yet it's the last thing you want to do in this.
Yes, I find that the other drivers give it a little more space if you sort of slide around a little bit. Either intent, yeah, quite. Lift off, it's the old one.
Yeah.
And so but it's the tyres as well. We have to preserve the tyres.
Yeah.
The tyres are very good, but you only get 2 sets for the year, so it's very important to try and make sure that they work right the way through the entire year. I may be slightly overdriving the car, but it's just all improvements.
Just the one qualifying session per meeting, but it's the driver's second fastest time that gives their grid position for race 2, which is what we're seeing here. Simon Clark once again on pole with James Cayley alongside Mark McAleer and Pete Morris on row 2. Matt Kyle Henney on row 4 is the Class 2 pole from James Coleman, Ross Morris and Andy Mugridge. Meanwhile, Class 3 headed again by race winner Paul Simpson from Stephen Shaw. Mike Thompson in third. Barry Strong completing the 19-car entry. We lost Glenn Brossley in race number 1, which was a pity, and he's not out in this one, so hopefully he'll rejoin us later on. Very good start from James Cayley from the outside of the front row. Super start as well by Stephen Shaw. Paul Simpson, the pole man in Class 3, looking to try and reclaim the lead, and he should do it as he nips down the inside line into Riches. We rejoin the front runners though. Very quick start too by James Coleman. Might be under investigation. It looked okay to me on our footage, I've got to say, but we'll see. The quickest starter by my book was Mark McAleer, and I don't think he jumped anything, but anyway, it's down to the officials. It's not for me to interfere, as James Coleman, the winner of Class 2 in race number 1, really setting out his stall in the championship early on. Runs a little bit wide down there on this sweep down into Agostini. So it's James Cayley leading from Pete Morris, then Simon Clark running in third position. Decent start again by Andy Baker, and it was a good start from Stephen Shaw, who actually leads Class 3. So Stephen Shaw got the lead back from Paul Simpson in the 88 car, so we're going to see some work needed to be done here for Paul Simpson to achieve a Class 3 double. It was interesting to hear about the tyres. It's very much an entry-level class into the Porsche Club Championship, the Petro-Canada Lubricants Porsche Club Championship with Pirelli, of course, as we watch Charles Clark going down what used to be known as the Revit Straight, now rebranded to the Bentley Straight, and Mark McAleer dives down into third place. McAleer side by side with Pete Morris. That was a very brave move and a determined move from Mark McAleer, who goes up into third position ahead of arch rival, and I'm sure great friend Pete Morris as well. Look at the sideways motion there from Peter once again. Matt Kyle Henny running well. There in 17 is Andrew Muggeridge. Ross Morris back in fourth place, so Ross with Andrew Muggeridge engaging in battle once again. Won't be too keen at having seen James Coleman away at the front. So Ross with work again to do to try and get up onto the podium for a second time. And there's the board going out, 10-second penalty, and that is for James Coleman. As I said, it's not for me to argue with what I saw. The judges of fact, as they're called, the officials make a decision and they have to stick with that, but at least the driver will know. And James Coleman is going to be a tall order for him to build up a 10-second gap. I'll tell you what, there's nothing that fires up a driver more than seeing a pit signal like that. So he's leading the class and he may well pull out a decent enough gap. But the other thing is, of course, the other drivers, they will be equal to that task because they'll know that he's trying to get away. Battle for the lead. Simon Clark challenging hard. James Cayley out front. So it was another great start. Another good first lap from James Cayley. Mark McAleer in third. If you were to look at this on paper, lap charts, you think, hey, it's pretty much the same as the previous race, the top three. We've already seen a great pass to get into third from Mark McAleer. In car with James Coleman, the Class 2 leader. James working hard going around the Montreal hairpin now as Simon Clark has a look up the inside line. You can see Mark McAleer with no pressure immediately behind, able to take a slightly wider line out of Williams. This might give him a run again. He seems to fancy his chances down the straight here, down the Bentley Straight, and maybe look on the inside line. I'm looking back from Simon Clark's car, and well, Mark McAleer looked further back than that, but he was up for challenging for second position. But it's still Clark there now. McAleer this time does it on the outside line, going on to the inside at Nelson and up into second place. So the question is, has Mark McAleer saved his tyres for this one? McAleer from fourth on lap one up into second place. And if anyone tells you there's no overtaking in Porsche racing, then just point them in the direction of this programme. Simon Clark down to third. Mark McAleer, the former champion, had a nightmare start last season, but actually, we better be careful what we say. Having a better start to this year, curse of the commentator, is a dangerous thing. So we watch Mike Thompson up ahead of Barry Strong. And the Class 3s very much enjoying their race now as Mark McAleer challenges for the lead. McAleer has pace and goes through. Mark McAleer, the former champion, 2 passes within the space of a lap, and the 14 car qualified in third position on the grid, dropped to fourth on the opening lap, came back and is now in the lead. What a drive by Mark McAleer. This is super stuff from Mark Mac, and we'll get into the whole statistical thing a little bit later on, because this is the Class 3 leader going through. Paul Simpson, followed by Class 2 man Andy Baker. Then in blue, it's Mike Thompson, followed by Barry Strong. So Barry's moved up one place from his starting position. Mark McAleer now will be keen to try and break away from the group. I think from the viewer's perspective, we'd like to see the quintet, maybe even more, all together on track, but that's not what Mark McAleer wants. So it is James Cayley in second position now, but as he was in race number 1, being hounded by Simon Clark, and this time it's Chris Dyer who's putting him under pressure. Mike Thompson having a good look at Andy Baker here. I mentioned that Andy came from the BRSCC Championship. Originally, that's where Mark McAleer was racing, but in the 924 Porsches, which was the origins of the BRSCC Championship back in the day. And there's a handful of 924 still racing, but Mark McAleer was a champion in that. He's been a champion in this many times as well. Multiple race winner, and at the moment getting away from this 3-car scrap for second position. Mark McAleer will be metaphorically, rubbing his hands together with glee that we've got 4 cars, the back of the quartet. Actually, it's a quintet for second place, because the blue car, just popping its nose into the equation there, is Jake McAleer, race winner from last year, Mark's son, who is busy trying to close down as well. Then followed by, currently in 7th position, James Coleman. The fact that James has got a decent class lead probably doesn't help his cause in terms of that 10-second penalty. Probably said enough about that at the moment, but on the timing clock he's still showing in P2 as Andy Baker comes under pressure again from Mike Thompson. It's Baker's job here to fend off Thompson, the class 2 car fending off class 3, and also to try and close down on the leader of class 3, which is Paul Simpson. Goes across the line. Andy's got some work to do. All the time he's being hassled by Mike Thompson. It's not going to help his cause, to be perfectly honest. Here comes the 88 car. And a good move here by Mike Thompson, who has a look down the inside line. As we said, good inter-class racing here. And the Resto Racing class car from last year, as it was known, goes through and passes Andy Baker. So a good move there. Not to take a position in class, but a position overall in the race. James Cayley has now been passed by Simon Clark. Clark coming under pressure. Cayley coming under pressure now from Chris Dyer, multiple race winner last year, 3-time overall race winner, 24 class wins in his career for Chris Dyer. And now having a go at Andy Baker is Barry Strong. So Barry having a good nibble as well. So Mark McAleer the leader. Are we going to see the second place man now, Simon Clark, start to close in? James Cayley losing a little bit of ground at the moment. Maybe had the best out of his tyres in race number 1, but still being chased by Chris Dyer in the number 9. Mark McAleer the leader. Good lead at the moment over Simon Clark in second place. James Cayley is still in third. A total contrast to race number 1, but we do still have some very close battling as Chris Dyer now goes down the inside line of James Cayley. Chris Dyer makes it through and up into a podium. Here's the leader in class 3, Paul Simpson. Mike Thompson in second place, and there is Barry Strong in the 35 running in third place. Stephen Shaw currently in 5th position, so this is the scrap for second place in class 3. Meanwhile, the quartet dicing at the moment over third place. James Cayley under pressure now from Pete Morris. Jake McAleer in the mix as well. Class 1 Cayman, the McAleer family having the 997, of course, of Mark McAleer, the race leader, and the Cayman. So as a family getting good feedback, as I guess Strasser do, on the Cayman 997 comparisons that they would probably get from Pete Morris and Chris Dyer. And Chris has done a good job here to come through. Chris, race winner here in race 2 last year. He seems to be echoing the form he had last year, because he took the win in race 2 last year from Michael Price. Pete Morris was second. Race 1 last year, almost the same weekend back in July, was Simon Clark race 1 win from Pete Morris. Mark McAleer in third, and James Coleman and Toby Barlow sharing the class 2 victories last season. So as far as class 1 goes, we've had, if it stays like this with Mark McAleer at the head of the field, in the last 4 races we'll have had 4 different winners at Snetterton in the space of 12 months. So it just goes to show how competitive this championship is. Fastest lap at the moment with Simon Clark, as Ross Morris does earlier in this race what he did on the last lap of race 1 to Andrew Muggeridge. So Ross Morris going through back into a podium position at the moment. Class 2 led by James Coleman on the road, but with the penalty applied, Matt Carl-Henny is the class leader. So Matt looking to make it a win apiece between those guys. Charles Clark going through. Charles running in 11th position, Matt Carl-Henny behind him. So Pete Morris now going to attempt to have a go at James Cayley. Still Mark McAleer out front. scheduled, I think, again, this should run to 12 laps, barring any incidents. What you can see here is that the gap between first and second has closed up. So Simon Clark, with fastest lap now, has closed down on Mark McAleer, and we could see, remember, McAleer's already passed Clark once in the race, but Clark's starting to reel him back, and that's the fascination of this championship. As they come out of Agostini, heading down in towards the left-hander Hamilton, which brings them round into Oggies and then into Williams. This is potentially developing into a battle for the lead again. So Simon Clark second in race number 1, P2 here as well, but with fastest lap. Remember, championship points are awarded on the race win, of course, but also on the number of starters in each class. So you can't come into the lesser subscribed class and pick up all the points there. You have to earn your points by beating the number of cars. We've got a driving standards flag going out. Not quite sure who that is for at the moment, but it will be for track limits as the race leaders go through once again. Mark McAleer, this is his 208th start in the championship, and he's going to hit a little bit of a landmark here. If he stays on the podium, it'll be a 46 win and 130th career podium in Petro-Canada Lubricants Porsche Club Championship with Pirelli. So racking up the stats, he is driver with the most podium. Remember, we said that Pete Morris had hit 90 podiums at the end of last season. And I think Mark's probably done more starts, Mark McAleer. 206 starts, Pete Morris on 164. Haven't gone as fast as to work out the percentages, although I might get nagged for that as we watch Del Brett running in the Class 1 997. And no one to play with at the moment for Del, putting in some solid lap times. As we go back to the leader in Class 3, and we're seeing a little bit more of him in this race, Paul Simpson, possibly because he's not as far ahead of Mike Thompson as he was in race number 1. It was Barry Strongcourse finished second. There is the race leader, just gone out of shot, James Coleman from Matt Kyle Henney. Nearly called him Peter Kyle Henney then. But Matt, the leader, remember, on the clock, as James Coleman has that 10-second penalty for what is on the officials' sheet as out of position start. I can only assume that maybe he didn't line up correctly in the box, because I don't think he jumped the start. That's probably what it was about, as we watched Bill Cayley in the mix, running in 6th position in Class 2, and back with the overall race leader, Mark McAleer, multi-champion in this formula, still enjoying his racing. What I admire about Mark and the other guys is that when they have bad days, it does get them down, but they carry on racing right the way through to the end of the season. We saw that with Mark last year. Simon Clark in the Thomson Reuters car, trying to close down on him. Fastest lap of the race so far. A little bit ragged there as he came out of Murray's. He's trying hard, without a doubt, in the Cayman to try and close down on the 997. It's McAleer who goes very slightly up the gradient onto the last lap, looking relatively comfortable at the moment. It's Pete Morris now in 3rd position, so Pete back on the podium. James Cayley down to 4th, and James getting closer to Pete Morris as they come across the line to go on to the last lap. Jake McAleer is next up, and Jake, as you can see, in some good points here in 5th place. James Coleman is next up. This is the race leader in Class 3, so that bags all our 3 class leaders, and they're being caught now by Mark McAleer, who might be starting to feel the nerves a little bit. Remember, he had problems in qualifying, but the team have overcome that. Mark McAleer 3rd in race number 1, a 129th podium. This will be a 45th class win in his career. There's Matt Kyle Henney, leader on the clock of the Class 2s. Class 3 still enjoying their battle, going through shot as well, as Mark McAleer eventually comes through. I think has responded to Simon Clark over the last lap or so. Clark with the fastest lap still, and Mark McAleer probably saw him coming. There's the leader on the road of Class 2, James Coleman, looking for an 8th win on the road in class, or class win we should say, but subject to official confirmation, expected to lose that as Mark McAleer closes down on Mike Thompson. I think he's going to put a lap on Mike here. The Class 1 car, as we would expect, passing the Class 3 very neatly on the inside line. That, I think, the last obstacle to overcome for Mark McAleer before he sees the checkered flag. He's not going to make a mistake coming out of Murray's. Indeed, he doesn't. This is all good stuff from him. Simon Clark in P2, but we're going to have two different winners here in Class 1 for the opening round of the season. Down the straight towards the flag goes Mark McAleer. There's the checker. McAleer, the former champion, wins the race with Simon Clark in second place. Pete Morris is still in third position. Happy wave there from Simon Clark. We look back. Here comes the leader on the road of the Class 2s. James Coleman running 6th overall. Pops a move on Stephen Shaw, who is running in 16th place. Third place in Class 3. We sadly lost Barry Strong back on lap 4. But Matt Kyle Henney on the clock takes the win in Class 2. There is the winner on the road, the 47 car of James Coleman, but Matt Kyle Henney in 25 taking the class win. It's how they finish. Mark McAleer the winner from Simon Clark and podium Pete Morris. James Cayley next up from Jake McAleer and Matt Kyle Henney Class 2 winner from James Coleman, and Ross Morris on the podium again. Andy Muggeridge next from Charles Clark and Del Brett. Bill Cayley 12th. Paul Simpson winning Class 3 from Mike Thompson. Then it was Andy Baker and Stephen Shaw completing the finishers.
So Mark, after the stresses and strains of the start of the day after qualifying, that's ended up pretty well, the second and the first.
Yeah, I mean, what a great way to end the end of the day, you know, I mean, because this morning I honestly thought our season was over. You know, I didn't think we'd get the car out ready. So I thought it was going to be a DNF for both races, or not start for both races. So for the lads to turn the car around like that, and as I said to you before, to make give us a fast car like we've had today, absolutely brilliant. Over the moon. You know, I'm really pleased for them as well.
Pete, fantastic race there. You were getting the pressure on all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I qualified at 4th on the grid. I got a good start, got up to 2nd on the hanger straight, and then I missed a gear change, and that was it, dropped 2 places. And then Chris come on the back of me and put me to 5th. And I thought, well, I hope he got the pace, so I let him go a bit. And then I just stuck onto the first place winner for the first race. And well, one of the best races I've had for ages. I mean, it was getting lively at the back end round the corner, and I was really happy to come in third. I mean, I outbraked him at the end of the straight at 120. I thought, I hope this goes in. He did. So, yeah, it was a cracking race.
Matt, fantastic way to end the day. Yeah, a brilliant win there. How was it for you?
Yeah, it was good. Unfortunate for Coleman to get a penalty, but great for us, obviously. But yeah, kept pace with him towards the end. I was catching as well, so really happy with that. And yeah, first win of the career, so still hasn't hit me yet, but I'm sure it will soon.
Great to get it out of the way. So you've had a second to first on the event 1, 4 events to go. So it's anything to play for, really.
Absolutely. Yeah, and to get it on a circuit that I've never raced at before, even better. But yeah, really looking forward to this season.
Championship table looks like this. Simon Clark leading by just 2 points from Mark McAleer. James Cayley in 3rd, ahead of Pete Morris. Jake McAleer 5th, with Del Brett in 6th. In Class 2, a tie at the top. James Coleman and Matt Kyle Henney, with Ross Morris in 3rd. Andy Muggeridge in 4th from Charles Clark and Bill Cayley. Class 3 headed by Paul Simpson from Mike Thompson, Stephen Shaw and Barry Strong. That's it from Snetterton. Make sure you join us next time when we are at Alton Park. Bye-bye for now.